In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to tell you the top 6 reasons some tools fail us and what you can do about it, whether you have already bought a tool or you're just preparing to buy one. In our industry, since I remember it, we have been telling the same catchy phrases again and again. There is no silver bullet. A fool with a tool is still a fool. But you know what? These are not helping the community. In the end of the day, if you want a successful SAM program, you need a good tool set, not necessarily a single tool. And often it happens that organizations enthusiastically jump on the bandwagon, buy a market-leading tool, and then it fails to deliver. But I wouldn't be blaming the tool. There are plenty of them right now in the market. They have their own limitations. They're not perfect. None is perfect, but that's okay. The key two things to understand here is that each tool has its own limitations and that very few people are going to tell you all the truth about those limitations. You need yourself to see behind the marketing smoke and mirrors, be prepared to build workarounds, and make it clear to yourself that the tool is a foundation for your SAM solution, not the entire solution, not the SAM solution, despite what salespeople may tell you. And you will achieve incredible results if you treat a tool as a foundation for your SAM solution, and I guarantee that you're gonna fail if you just buy a tool. And that is exactly the number one reason why some tools fail. A tool is not a SAM solution. How do you approach this properly? Well, priorities. Buying a tool must not come first. You do not first buy a tool and then build a solution on top of that. You prepare. Step number 1, study your entitlement, then your infrastructure, understand your issues, and entitlement comes first. Based on that, you set your goals, and then you design a whole solution and the plan to implement it. And then you'll be prepared to think about the tool. Putting the tool first, as some of us do, is like buying a lottery ticket. What if its limitations overlap with your exact SAM goals? Before you know your goals, you can't really assess that. You must write down exact micro-level things you would like your tool to manage, you would like your solution to solve. And I mean, help me manage my cloud consumption or take care of my Microsoft licenses. These are not detailed enough. It must be about exact titles, exact metrics in your environment, how you are using them. And the reason number 2 the SAM tools fail us is that we expect too much from the tools. By all means, first look at the strength of the tool, but then study the shortcomings as well and set your expectations accordingly. Do not blindly trust marketing materials. And also, be careful with some tool ratings. Let me kindly remind you that you need a solution that works for you, not a market leader, not a visionary, something that is going to work for you. If it's a market leader, does it do what you require? Talk to salespeople, meet with them, that's the step number 1. And after you've collected all the inputs, go to the community and start asking exact questions. And to put things into perspective again, questions like, does it do Oracle middleware? Such questions don't cut it. What you should be asking is something like, does it recognize components installed by Oracle Enterprise Manager version 12c in my particular configuration? That level of detail. It is utterly important to keep in mind that tools do not operate with high-level ballpark figure, holistic approach, all that smoke and mirror. Tools are cold-blooded machines. At least they need good quality data and means to get it. And if you're lucky, they should be able to manage it. But even if they don't, if they get you the right data, you can build a workaround on top of that. And that kind of meticulous research will help you set your expectations. Fail to do that, and you won't be prepared to choose a tool, to outline a complete solution, and then to put it out to tender properly. Speaking of which, reason number 3 some tools fail us is that we approach a tender without a well-detailed spec. And because of that, we choose a tool by its price only, because that's the rule of the game. If you don't have a detailed spec, the vendors will just compete by price. You don't need the cheapest. You need the cheapest amongst those that solve your problems. Please make sure you put it out to tender only when you have a meticulously detailed spec ready. Also, please make sure, and this is really sad when it happens, is that you communicate it clearly to your procurement department. Keep your hand on the pulse, check every step of the tender process in order to avoid your spec being generalized, because that's not what you're trying to achieve here. And even before that, the reason number 4 for a SAM tool to fail you is lack of budget. To build a complete solution and work around the limitations in the tool. Lack of budget to maintain the tool and run operations. I hope you understand that no SAM tool can run on its own and manage itself. There are things that cannot and will not be automated in the foreseeable future due to that they require global changes in the economy. It's nearly impossible to manage entitlement without human interaction. And for such things, you need people to manage them. You need people to pre-process the data, to reassign licenses, to interpret the results and reports. If you expected the tool to do everything for you, then clearly you haven't prepared. So to get the right budget, outline the full solution first, complete solution, not just the tool, and see how much you will need to implement it in its entirety, with all the infrastructural changes, with the necessary hardware, and don't forget people. Then build a business case and ask for a complete budget. Sometimes you may be asked, how much is it going to be to buy just a tool? There's a risk in that you will have a budget for the tool and then you will struggle to get the rest of the budget to build a solution. Please avoid that pitfall at all costs. But let's assume that you've done all the preparations right, you've put it out to tender properly, and you have the budget and you have the means. Can it still fail you? Yes. And the reason number 5 is ridiculous. The number of times I have seen a tool being installed, but then implemented in a, excuse my French, half-assed way is staggering and depressing. The tool is not working because we are not letting it do its work. And let me give you a couple of examples, and they will be pretty simple. If you fail to configure an Active Directory connector, for instance, then you will not be able to understand if your coverage is complete, and discovery may struggle. Number 2, I assume you have a virtualized infrastructure. The majority of the tools will require you to configure connectors to VMware vCenter manually. And if you don't do that, if you just get the data from the virtual machines themselves, that data is utterly useless because it's only a half of the picture. You need the full picture to be able to assign licenses. You cannot do compliance on virtual machines without knowing on which hosts they reside and how they move between those hosts. You need a complete picture. And it often happens that the tool is installed, automated discovery is deployed, but connectors themselves are not configured. And then the tool is not working and it's not doing its job. And that's for the reason number 5. Just fix it, finish the installation. But don't forget that the infrastructure changes. And that is the reason number 6 why tools fail us is when we do not maintain them properly. Because the infrastructure changes and the tool must follow. So if anything changes, if you deploy a new cluster, if you go into a cloud, tell the tool that, connect it to that new cluster, deploy agents in the cloud, or configure a cloud connector. So you're always up to date with all the infrastructural changes. Forget to do that, and you lose visibility of that part of the infrastructure. And in the SAM world, you can't be half pregnant. You lose ability to track compliance and costs, and ultimately to take the right business decisions. So make sure you have regular procedures in place and react to changes in a timely manner. And don't forget about the resource to do that, and I mean people. What's the conclusion? Failure to study problems you're solving, incorrect approach to acquisition, and incomplete implementation. All of it may result in a dead weight of a non-working tool, and ultimately you wasted money. So where do you begin? Well, if you already bought a solution, you need to mitigate the shortcomings. I would usually advise to start with finalizing the deployment and making sure all the connectors work and the coverage is complete. And at the same time, write down all the shortcomings that you have discovered in the tool, what it doesn't do. Check with the vendor, chances are they may be addressing these shortcomings in the next version. The question is always, can you afford to wait? Then when you have the detailed list of shortcomings, then you put together a plan of how you're going to work around the limitations, account for all the resource for all the changes, and ask for a budget. And in your business case, when you ask for a budget, don't forget to let business know what they're getting in return. And if you haven't yet bought a tool, then obviously start with studying your own landscape. And here's another warning. When I say study your landscape, I do not mean ELPs. You do not need effective licensing positions at this stage. You need some sort of a strategic licensing and some assessment, an assessment that will produce a granular level heat map of issues. It must give you a kind of input that will help you to outline exact requirements for your SAM solution. And then when you have that, then go to market and start asking all kinds of uncomfortable questions. And remember not to fall for empty promises and do not trust big words. You need a solution that works now and works for you. There will be shortcomings, expect them, meet them on full gear, with a detailed plan of action, with a list of workarounds, with the necessary people on your team, and the budget for all that. And then you'll be sorted. If you'd like me to elaborate on any of the points raised here, please leave me a comment. I respond to every comment and I might even record a video on that. And if you'd like to learn more, please subscribe to this channel. I upload new videos at least weekly, so make sure you click that bell button so you do not miss any of them. Have a nice day and see you next time.